In my past life, Consort Chun, in her quest for the empress's throne, swapped her daughter for my son during childbirth. Unexpectedly, the prince was born dull-witted, not speaking until he was 5. The princess, however, was bright and clever, skilled in both literary and martial arts, and was eventually crowned the founding princess. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the birth, alongside pure consort. This time, she kept the princess, showering her with affection, waiting only for her to shine. But in this second chance, what I sought was never the imperial throne. For ascending that lofty position, a docile prince proved far more useful than a headstrong princess. Congratulations, Your Highness, on the birth of a prince. Opening my eyes, I saw palace maids kneeling before the bed. The matron at the front held the infant's swaddling clothes, presenting them to me. I couldn't help but sit up, gazing at the sleeping child within the bundle. Newborns always look wrinkled and crumpled. I reached out my right hand and gently stroked his forehead. Is this my royal son? A palace maid below me dared to speak up. Your Majesty, I just received word that Consort Chun has given birth to a princess. Consort Chun gave birth to a princess? My heart jolted, and fragments of memories flooded my mind. In my past life, after discovering my pregnancy, Consort Chun became pregnant herself within a month. Before her delivery, she secretly bribed the imperial physician and learned my child was likely a prince. She deliberately planted spies around me and used labor-inducing drugs so we would give birth simultaneously. On the day of delivery, the bribed wet nurse secretly swapped the prince I had given birth to while I was still unconscious. When I awoke, I believed I had given birth to a princess. It wasn't until my dying breath that I learned my child had been swapped at birth. But why hasn't pure consort made her move this lifetime? Could it be she too has been reborn? In my past life, the princess was born with extraordinary intelligence. She spoke at 3 months and walked by 6 months. By age 1, she read and wrote. At 3, she composed poetry effortlessly. By 5, she excelled in archery and horsemanship, her fame echoing throughout the capital. At 8, she outdebated an envoy from a rival kingdom. Amidst universal acclaim, the emperor bestowed upon her the title of founding princess. Through my child's glory, I gained the emperor's exclusive favor. In contrast, pure consort's son remained dull and slow, not speaking until he was 5. The emperor disliked this child and never visited pure consort's quarters again. Yet no one knew the princess's prodigious reputation was entirely my doing. Pure consort's birth of a prince overshadowed me, showering her with adoration. Court attendants, eager to curry favor with pure consort, secretly cut back on my palace's food, clothing, and supplies. Even the maids who served me whispered behind my back about my barren womb. Thus, when the princess spoke her first words at 3 months, I guided her to call out "Father" to the emperor seated at the highest place during a palace banquet. The emperor was astonished upon hearing this. After the banquet, he summoned me. It was the first time the emperor had visited my palace since the princess's birth. The princess began learning to walk at 6 months, while the son of Consort Chun next door still could not speak. Thus, the emperor developed a deep interest in the princess. He began visiting my palace frequently. To perpetuate the princess's reputation as a child prodigy, I taught her to read and write while secretly hiring a master of impersonation at great expense to serve as her personal maid. When the princess couldn't answer questions, the impersonator would respond. The princess merely needed to open her mouth and pretend. With this double strategy, I once again eclipsed Consort Chun's influence. Those petty officials who had heeded Consort Chun's advice and arbitrarily cut back on expenses all came forward to confess their mistakes. They offered double the silver they had withheld, along with numerous treasures they had secretly hoarded. Several years passed in this manner, and the palace welcomed several more imperial princes and princesses. Yet none posed a threat to my position. With such a brilliant example set before them, the subsequent imperial children all paled in comparison. Reflecting on this, Consort Chun must have been reborn alongside me. In this lifetime, she kept her princess, biding her time for her to shine. But having lived this life twice, I no longer coveted the empress's throne. With a prince of my own, why shouldn't I vie for that exalted position? The delivery room had barely been tidied when a eunuch announced the emperor's arrival. The emperor wore his imperial yellow dragon robe, his features sharp and commanding. He approached step by step, taking the infant prince from the wet nurse with a face full of tenderness. The emperor did not indulge in beauty, but was instead immersed in the Taoist path, wholly devoted to seeking immortality. In the harem, aside from me and Consort Chun, the other consorts rarely saw the emperor even once a year. Under such circumstances, offspring were exceedingly scarce. With his first child, the usually stern and cold emperor revealed a hint of tenderness and indulgence. The child bears a resemblance to me. The emperor's words suddenly made me understand why. In my past life, he had so despised this child. A ruler's heart is proud, and he was deeply immersed in the path of seeking immortality. Naturally, he could not bear to see a replica of himself who was foolish and dim-witted. The emperor glanced at the child twice before handing him back to the wet nurse. He lifted his robe and sat down beside the bed, patting my hand. My beloved consort, you have labored hard today. To bear children for your majesty is this servant's greatest blessing. This is my first imperial son. May he receive heaven's blessing. Shall we name him Xiao Qingyu? I smiled and replied, Your Majesty's choice is most fitting. Just then, a eunuch burst into the chamber. Your Majesty. News from Consort Chun's quarters. The princess was born clutching a phoenix jade pendant. She is the heaven-mandated phoenix maiden. The emperor glanced at him with interest. Heaven's chosen phoenix maiden? How intriguing. I shall go see for myself. After the emperor departed, the senior palace maid Qinghe approached me with discontent, venting her grievances. The emperor had only just arrived, and now Consort Chun has snatched him away. Clearly, Your Majesty gave birth to the eldest imperial son. Mind your words. I raised my hand to stop her from continuing. Consort Chun was far more astute than in my previous life. But elevating the princess to such lofty heights from the start was hardly a blessing. The higher she was raised, the harder she would fall. Consort Chun died young, unaware that in my past life, the princess grew increasingly rebellious as she matured. She refused to study literature or martial arts, always scheming to have her stand-in take her place whenever she could slack off. She resented me for forcing the title of child prodigy upon her to vie for favor, subjecting her to endless suffering. Later, when she was granted the title of founding princess, she fell for a prince from the enemy kingdom. Only when she betrayed her country for love, luring the enemy deep into our territory, and plunged a dagger into my chest, did I realize how utterly wrong I had been. Let pure consort cherish such a clueless princess. Soon after, news arrived. The emperor had bestowed the name Xiao Qingfeng upon the princess. Qinghe couldn't help muttering, She's just a princess, what gives her the right to share the same generation name as our eldest prince? And the emperor even used the character Feng. I raised an eyebrow, a flicker of unease crossing my mind. This time, Consort Chun had likely elevated the princess too high. After that, I settled into my confinement in the palace, with an imperial prince by my side in this life. Even as pure consort grew more favored, the palace attendants dared not withhold anything from me. Xiao Qingyu gradually blossomed, his skin as white as snow, his small face exquisitely formed. His brows and eyes bore an uncanny resemblance to his father, the emperor. Yet, those clear, dark, shining eyes didn't seem to belong to someone afflicted with dementia. Could there have been hidden circumstances in my past life? My doubts deepened, and I secretly invited a physician from the common folk into the palace. After multiple pulse readings and observations, the doctor concluded that the prince was merely born with delayed reactions, not mentally impaired. With active guidance, he might develop normally later in life. This news filled me with immense joy. It meant my chances of ascending to that lofty position had grown stronger. Before I knew it, Xiao Qingyu was nearing his first birthday. During this time, the princess, just as in my past life, spoke at a banquet at 3 months old, astonishing all present. Consort Chun had copied my actions from my previous life to the letter. The emperor grew ever more convinced she was the heaven-sent phoenix princess, showering Consort Chun with even greater favor. Consort Chun specially sent me a gift. Lifting the outer red silk revealed a bolt of plain white cloth, a subtle hint that I would endure neglect, devoid of favor or affection. Little did she know her triumph would be short-lived. Soon, the first birthday ceremony arrived. That day, the palace was adorned with lanterns and decorations, bustling with excitement. Court officials and noble princes all came to offer congratulations. This was my first encounter with Consort Chun since my rebirth. She wore a pale yellow brocade robe, her hair piled high in an elaborate bun. Exquisite golden flowers adorned both sides of her bun, making her look exceptionally luxurious. Her attire made her intentions abundantly clear. The eldest princess had already learned to walk. A red cord hung from her neck, bearing the phoenix jade pendant. Consort Chun personally carried her to the elevated platform, then guided her to take her seat. Ministers witnessing this flashed a look of astonishment. Though they'd long heard of the princess's prodigious talents, seeing it firsthand still left them awestruck. The emperor slowly took his seat, with pure consort and I seated to his left and right respectively. Once everyone was seated, a eunuch approached the long table at the center. The red silk covering was lifted, revealing all the items for the draw lot ceremony. The table was draped in bright yellow brocade, flanked by 4 palace maids who watched respectfully. Yet, when all eyes focused on the item placed at the center of the table, everyone's eyes widened, and they nearly gasped in unison. Placed right in the middle was none other than the jade seal symbolizing the imperial throne. But in my previous life, the jade seal had never appeared at the first birthday ceremony. Consort Chun paused slightly. Then a flicker of unwavering determination passed through her eyes. Regardless of the speculation swirling around them, the emperor sat upon his throne, his expression utterly unreadable. Consort Chun was the first to break the frozen atmosphere, rising swiftly to scoop the princess into her arms. She glanced at me triumphantly, her eyes brimming with the pride and arrogance of a victor. Everyone present now favored the princess even more. After all, she had already begun learning to read and write under the guidance of the female attendants. But the eldest prince? He hadn't uttered a single word yet. Unflappable. I lifted Xiao Qingyu and carried him over. Seeing the 2 children seated together, the emperor's interest was piqued. He rose and walked to the long table, personally removing the barrier separating them. The moment the barrier vanished, the eldest princess surged forward. The countless rare treasures and precious objects on the table failed to hold her attention. As if her target were already fixed, she charged straight for the imperial seal. Meanwhile, Xiao Qingyu seemed to be trying to imitate the princess and stand up. But after struggling for a while, he couldn't manage it. After flailing about for a bit, he gave up struggling and began climbing, his little hands flailing. Just as the princess grabbed the imperial seal, Xiao Qingyu also stopped his movements and grabbed the thing in front of him. Upon seeing what Xiao Qingyu had grasped, every minister present gasped in astonishment. Under all eyes, Xiao Qingyu waved his bright yellow robe several times. Father Emperor! Immortal! Though Xiao Qingyu couldn't form coherent sentences, his voice was loud and his words clear. Every person present heard him clearly. I exclaimed, my son, who has long been unable to speak. Must have absorbed the emperor's divine aura to speak so fluently now. They say a child's eyes see beyond the ordinary. Could he truly have glimpsed the emperor's transcendent celestial destiny? At this point, I abruptly stopped, lightly tapping my lips. I bowed to acknowledge my error. Your humble servant spoke out of turn, revealing heavenly secrets. I beg your majesty's punishment. The emperor looked startled and helped me up. My beloved, what crime have you committed? Do not blame yourself. Rise quickly. After lifting me up, the emperor bent down and picked up Xiao Qingyu, who was sitting on the table. Since that is the case, when I have free time, I shall come more often to keep the royal child company. Is that acceptable? Xiao Qingyu flashed another huge smile, his tender little hand clapping excitedly. Father Emperor. I like it. I pursed my lips, this ungrateful little one. His mouth is full of Father Emperor. Yet I've never heard him call me Mother Consort once. The emperor couldn't help but laugh aloud, cradling the child in one arm while taking my hand with the other. It's all my fault. Tonight, I'll come to your palace and personally teach the royal child to call you mother. A blush spread across my cheeks as I shyly nodded. This scene stabbed pure Consort's eyes with pain. Resentment flared in her voice. Your Majesty, Fulmer truly lives up to her title as the heaven-mandated Phoenix Maiden. Look what she's caught. Hearing this, the emperor turned his gaze back to Xiao Qingfeng, who clutched the imperial seal. Since ascending the throne, the emperor had rarely shown anger, but now his expression darkened completely. What? Is the heaven-mandated Phoenix Maiden so young that she already covets my throne? Pure Consort's face drained of color instantly. She immediately knelt down. Your Majesty, please understand. The princess. She is merely a child who has just turned one. How could she possibly comprehend such matters? Oh. The emperor's clear voice held suppressed anger. If this is not the princess's intention, then it must be the intention of my beloved consort. Pure Consort trembled in terror. Your servant. Your servant. Her words trailed off, utterly overwhelmed by panic. When everyone saw the imperial seal, they assumed His Majesty was selecting an heir. But the emperor was in the prime of his life and devoted to immortal arts. Such thoughts were far from his mind. I went to great lengths to gain access to the imperial preceptor, using him as a conduit to advise the emperor. His Majesty is the celestial dragon. The heaven-mandated Phoenix Maiden will consume his dragon essence. Dragon and Phoenix cannot coexist as spouses. They will inevitably clash, ending in death or injury. The princess is young now, but when she comes of age. The Grand Preceptor left the sentence unfinished. Thus, the imperial seal did not appear in the previous life, but it appeared in this one. His Majesty intended to test the princess. Unexpectedly, the princess truly seized the jade seal. Now, the emperor fully believed the heaven-mandated Phoenix Maiden would threaten his rule. Consort Chun pleaded desperately, the princess is a maiden. She could never covet the throne. This is all a misunderstanding. Veins throbbed on the emperor's forehead. Consort Chun. Are you questioning the emperor? His patience utterly gone. He spoke in an icy tone. What are you waiting for? Escort Consort Chun and the princess back to the palace immediately. Attend to them diligently. In the future, arrange for female tutors to teach the princess music and dance. Consort Chun tried to protest further, but the emperor's chief eunuch forcibly led her away. The emperor remembered his earlier promise to me. He abstained from wine during the banquet and pulled me aside early to retire. Like a common father, he patiently taught Xiao Qingyu to speak. Xiao Qingyu did not disappoint his expectations and learned everything. The next day, after the emperor departed, he sent servants to deliver many gifts to Xiao Qingyu. I ordered Qinghe to retrieve the white cloth previously sent by Consort Chun from the storeroom. Under the pretext of celebrating the princess's first birthday, it was returned to Consort Chun's palace. I heard that day, Consort Chun flew into a terrible rage at the princess. After that, the emperor did not call for Consort Chun for a full half-year. Nor did he see the princess once. Time passed swiftly, and the year drew to a close. As the new year approached, the Empress Dowager would return from Goen Temple to the palace for the festivities, as she did every year. Then, after the new year, she would return to Goen Temple as the Empress Dowager's niece. Consort Chun had always seized the opportunity to shine during the New Year banquets since entering the palace. This year was no exception. Only this time, the emperor had appointed me to co-manage the festivities. When I saw Consort Chun again, her former flamboyance had vanished. She wore a pale green gown, and her headdress was far simpler. I felt as though I was seeing her as she was when she first entered the palace. Alas, her words remained unchanged. The Empress Dowager's return to the palace will surely rectify the atmosphere within the harem. This certain someone's exclusive favor will come to an end. I sipped my tea, smiling without comment. The Empress Dowager's return will undoubtedly bolster Pure Consort's position. Pure Consort must be planning to use this opportunity to turn the tables. My silence only emboldened Pure Consort further. She claimed we were co-organizing the New Year banquet. Yet she gave me no chance to contribute. I was quite content with the respite. When someone dislikes you from the start, flattery is futile. Better to let the Empress Dowager see Pure Consort's true colors. On the day the Empress Dowager returned, only the Emperor and Pure Consort went to greet her. None of the other consorts appeared. That night, the Emperor lodged in Pure Consort's palace. The next day, the consorts came to pay their respects to the Empress Dowager. After a while, the Emperor also arrived after court. When he entered, the eldest princess had just finished playing the zither and presenting her artistry. The Empress Dowager nodded with satisfaction. At her age, Fulmer possesses such skill on the zither. She truly lives up to her reputation as a child prodigy. It won't be long before she claims the title of the capital's most talented young lady. The Emperor raised an eyebrow. Indeed, she is exceptional. When the time comes, I shall select a newly crowned top scholar to wed her. It will surely become a tale of timeless beauty. Seeing this, the other consorts began flattering the princess, each offering their congratulations. Only I remained silent. The Empress Dowager noticed my silence, and her face darkened instantly. I heard upon returning to the palace that Consort Chun gave birth to the eldest imperial son. Her contribution is no small matter. I rose to curtsy. It was my duty. Your Majesty. The Empress Dowager suddenly snorted coldly. The eldest imperial son is slow to learn. You failed to raise him properly. Yet you monopolize the emperor's favor day after day. Do you perhaps wish the emperor had only one son, so you could seize the throne? The Empress Dowager truly lived up to her reputation as the reigning champion of palace intrigue. With just a few words, she pinned a false accusation on me. I immediately knelt to confess my error, Your Majesty. I absolutely did not harbor such intentions. I am willing to be confined to my quarters for a year to prove my innocence. The emperor heard this and furrowed his brow, but said nothing. Only then did the Empress Dowager let me off. Recognizing your remorse, this shall suffice as punishment. During your confinement, devote yourself entirely to instructing the Crown Prince. Ensure he does not disgrace the imperial family when he enters the Imperial Academy. Yes. I resumed my seat. After issuing her warning, the Empress Dowager redirected the conversation back to Consort Chun. With such a bright and charming princess, Consort Chun will surely bear the emperor another equally intelligent young prince. The emperor responded with a lukewarm acknowledgement. The consorts below exchanged glances. It seemed Pure Consort was truly poised for a comeback. If this period of imperial favor truly resulted in her bearing a prince, her status would become virtually unshakable. With the Empress Dowager's rare return to the palace, the emperor remained to dine with the consorts. I ignored the scrutinizing gazes. both kind and unkind. I focused solely on the meal before me. Just then, a palace maid's startled cry shattered the peaceful scene. She pointed at the phoenix jade pendant around the princess's neck. It's cracked. There's a crack on the phoenix jade. The emperor's expression changed abruptly. He strode forward and yanked the phoenix jade from the princess's neck. The jade was densely covered in cracks. Yet despite the severe damage, it remained intact. This peculiar sight prompted the emperor to summon the imperial sage immediately. As tension thickened in the chamber, the sage arrived. The grand sage took the phoenix jade, holding it close to his eyes for repeated examination. He then closed his eyes, murmuring incantations. Suddenly, he snapped his eyes open, flinging the jade onto the tray as if scalded by it. Clatter. One sound. The phoenix jade shattered. The grand sage reported. When the phoenix maiden faced adversity, cracks began to form in the jade. It was destined to shatter. But recently, the Empress Dowager returned to the palace, allowing the Phoenix Maiden to borrow the Phoenix's fortune. She regained the momentum to soar to new heights. Just now, I used the Emperor's imperial aura to coerce it, forcing the mandate of heaven back into submission. As his words fell, everyone gasped in shock. The smile slowly faded from the Empress Dowager's face, though her demeanor remained composed. The palpable pressure radiating from her body spoke volumes. In her youth, she had favored Buddhist rituals. Though she hadn't become as deeply immersed in mystical arts as the emperor, she still felt a sense of apprehension at these words. I set down the handkerchief I'd been using to wipe my lips. How about this? Sister Pure Consort? You and I shall both be confined for a year to properly educate the princess. There are still many sisters to bear children and expand the family. The emperor nodded without hesitation. This turn of events caught everyone off guard. Both Pure Consort and I were confined for a year, leaving the neglected consorts utterly dumbfounded. The year of confinement passed in a flash. During this time, Consort Li was elevated to the rank of consort after giving birth to the young princess. Some other consorts gained favor, but none made much of a splash. So, as another year's end approached, the Empress Dowager, disappointed, once again brought a beauty from her maternal family and placed her in the harem. But that beauty proved unambitious. Aside from receiving favor twice upon entering the palace, the emperor never summoned her again. These past 2 years, I devoted more attention to Xiao Qingyu. Just as the folk doctor had said, he was merely slow to respond. With patient guidance, he would certainly not bring shame upon the imperial family. Drawing on my memories from my previous life, I shaped him into a divine son with foresight. The emperor consequently visited my palace frequently. Returning to Consort Chun, the princess channeled all her innate brilliance into the arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Rumor has it she recently embroidered a silk pouch for the emperor herself. He symbolically wore it for a moment before misplacing it somewhere. These tranquil days passed swiftly, and Xiao Qingyu reached the age to enter the Imperial Academy. Years prior, I had written home to select a companion tutor for him from my maternal family. He could be moderate, but he absolutely had to be sharp. The princess, however, was not permitted to enter the Imperial Academy. Instead, court ladies taught her the admonitions for women daily. On the surface, everything seemed fine, but I knew Pure Consort was still scheming to gain favor through the princess. Entering the Imperial Academy meant studying the 6 arts of the gentleman. To my surprise, Xiao Qingyu proved quite adept at archery and horsemanship. Upon hearing this, the emperor grew quite excited and decided to observe the first archery and horsemanship examination. Xiao Qingyu was scheduled to perform last, but the aristocratic students who came before him showed no mercy. After all, with the emperor present, who wouldn't want to earn his praise? Soon, it was the penultimate contestant's turn. This youth appeared rather slight in build. Head bowed. Collar turned up high. His face remained somewhat obscured. He mounted his horse with agile ease, then spurred it into a gallop. As he neared the target, his eyes darted swiftly as he drew a long arrow. Knocking, drawing, and releasing, his movements were fluid and flawless. Excellent! Someone below couldn't help but cry out in admiration. The emperor nodded with apparent satisfaction. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, finding it hard to smile. I recognized him. This wasn't some youngster, but clearly Xiao Qingfeng. In her past life, she had performed a blindfolded horseback archery display, securing an unmatched first place. This time, his precision remained high, but the level he just demonstrated, Xiao Qingyu could match it. If that were all, Consort Chun wouldn't have risked forcing her to perform at the Imperial Academy. Consort Chun must have other tricks up her sleeve. Xiao Qingfeng dismounted and returned his bow and arrows to the rack. At that very moment, the founding sword, displayed at the center, began to vibrate without cause. The emperor's face paled, and he sprang to his feet. Clang! 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 The sword's resonance grew more intense, as if it might break free at any moment and soar toward the heavens. But in the next instant, Xiao Qingfeng's hand touched the scabbard. The tremor vanished instantly, as if the sword had been tamed by Xiao Qingfeng. Sunlight danced upon the blade, casting a golden glow. From the crowd below, a voice cried out, "Hail the emperor for gaining another renowned general, to secure the realm, establish the nation, and pacify the world." The others knelt and echoed the cry in unison. Pacify the world! Pacify the world! Joy lit the emperor's face as he waved his hand. Come forward at once, boy, so I may see you properly. Xiao Qingfeng withdrew his hand from the founding sword and strode forward to pay his respects. Your humble son, Xiao Qingfeng, greets his majesty. The moment he recognized Xiao Qingfeng, the emperor's smile froze on his face. How could it be you? The pure consort suddenly appeared from somewhere, rushing forward in 2 strides to plead her case. It is all this servant's fault. Fulmer has shown an interest in these matters since childhood and possesses a natural talent for martial arts. This servant could not bear to see such talent go to waste. What if Fulmer was born to establish a new dynasty for your majesty and unify the realm? As pure consort spoke these words, her voice lowered once more, yet her gaze remained fixed intently upon the emperor. Your servant secretly sought permission for Fulmer to occasionally practice at the training grounds. The emperor's expression softened slightly as he began to ponder her words. Xiao Qingfeng knelt and bowed. Your humble son is willing to battle across the land and ease the emperor's burdens. Had I not raised Xiao Qingfeng in my previous life, I might well have been completely flustered by her performance now. Not to mention in this life, Xiao Qingfeng was confined within the palace. She studied the arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and read the admonitions for women. The rigors of martial training, she likely couldn't endure them. Thinking this, I feigned apprehension and spoke up. After all, the princess is a woman. Wouldn't it be inconvenient for her to enter the military camp in the future? Besides, women are delicate. Even if she has talent, how could she possibly match men? No sooner had I finished than Consort Chun shot me a vicious glare. Your Majesty, Fulmer's talent is truly rare. How can we be so hesitant? Why not grant her a chance to prove herself? By this point in the argument, the emperor had already made his decision. I shall dispatch General Pei to the training grounds daily to instruct the princess in martial arts. If, after 1 year, the princess defeats any of her male peers, I shall bestow upon her the title of founding princess and command her to wage war for me across the land. Should the princess fail to endure the year, or fail to prevail after it, this matter shall be considered never to have occurred. With Xiao Qingfeng setting such a high standard, Even if Xiao Qingyu performed equally well, it would seem ordinary. Fortunately, Xiao Qingyu's academic performance was equally unremarkable. Always so mediocre. Yet, through my patient guidance over the years, she has developed an excellent disposition and grown exceptionally close to me. After Xiao Qingfeng made a name for herself, Consort Chun grew arrogant once more. She didn't trouble me directly, but instead bullied Consort Li several times. Her words were laced with scorn, calling the young princess useless and less capable than the eldest princess. With no other recourse, Consort Li came to me seeking protection. She brought the young princess with her. Both the prince and the eldest princess bear a stronger resemblance to the emperor. The little princess, however, took after Consort Li, appearing as harmless as a little rabbit. This was likely the very image Xiao Qingfeng had longed for in her past life. She always blamed me for making her appear different, claiming it was why she couldn't win the favor of noble young men. I had been so exasperated by her that I lay awake night after night, resenting how her disposition failed to match her innate talent. In this life, she is no longer my child. I have come to accept it. Compared to talent, disposition matters far more. Though it is a pity, it is her own choice. If she prefers to marry well and raise children, that is her own pursuit. Mother? The little princess's soft, sweet call drew my attention back. Consort Li's expression changed, and she tried to step forward to stop me. I waved her off, pinching the little princess's cheek. It matters not. Call me Mother Consort, and I shall protect you completely. Consort Li exhaled deeply and resumed her seat. I chuckled softly. The solution is simple. Have the little princess stay with the eldest princess for a couple of days. Consort Chun will have no time to bother you. Though puzzled, Consort Li agreed. Over the next few days, Consort Li brought the little princess daily to pay respects to Consort Chun, always timing their visits when the eldest princess returned from martial arts training at the drill ground. By the 5th day, Consort Chun ordered Consort Li to cease these visits. Word came back that the eldest princess and Consort Chun had quarreled. Consort Chun, enraged, had even laid hands on the princess. I suspected Xiao Qingfeng simply didn't want to go to martial arts practice anymore. Consort Chun had resorted to considerable coercion to force her attendance. But how many times could this pressure be sustained? Each confrontation only wounded the bond between mother and daughter. Cooperation? I raised an eyebrow, observing Xiao Qingfeng, who had sought me out, with keen interest. Though I anticipated Xiao Qingfeng would challenge Consort Chun, I never imagined she'd ambush me in the imperial garden. She even proposed we collaborate to bring down pure consort. Xiao Qingfeng's eyes darkened slightly. Your Highness would certainly gain from partnering with me. Wouldn't it pose a greater threat to you if I trained under General Pei and mastered his arts? I remained impassive, fingering the flowers before me. Not at all. Your Highness possesses a natural martial talent. If you were to fail to graduate, that would be a loss for our nation. Xiao Qingfeng furrowed her brow. There's no one else here. Cut the formalities. Just tell me, will you or won't you? I plucked the bouquet from my hand, turned with a smile, and offered it to Xiao Qingfeng. Of course. But it will require some assistance from your Highness. I've sent word to General Pei, instructing him to go through the motions at the training grounds. No need for genuine instruction. Though I'm in the harem this lifetime, memories from my past life have allowed me to win over many court officials. Even more surprising is that Consort Li's family is the wealthiest in the realm. This truly is an unexpected bonus. It seems I'm drawing ever closer to that lofty position. Xiao Qingfeng muddled through like this for half a year. Then came the emperor's birthday. The birthday banquet was held in the astrology tower. Beyond ministers and consorts presenting gifts, the most iconic ritual was the state master's blessing and divine inquiry. As guests took their seats, the white-robed state master slowly entered. He stood with feet staggered, knees slightly bent, A bell hung high in his right hand. A white fan held level in his left. Music began. And he moved. The ethereal chime of the bell echoed, its volume shifting between distant and near. The white fan closed, pointing toward the canopy above. Moonlight poured like water onto the fan, reflecting sparks of silver light. The grand astrologer closed his eyes slightly, murmuring incantations. Yet the bell's chime abruptly halted midair, as if time itself had frozen in that moment. The white-robed Grand Master's expression darkened instantly, his brow furrowing as a flicker of alarm crossed his eyes. "This is bad." His voice carried a thread of urgency, and the 8 words that followed sent shockwaves through the assembly. "A villain's machinations. The golden dragon is stricken." The Emperor's eyes widened in disbelief. He suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed onto his imperial throne. The Grand Preceptor drew a jade vial from his sleeve. His expression urgent, "The Emperor must be treated immediately." Consort Chun, displeased, ordered guards to block him. "How dare you administer medicine without permission? Summon the imperial physicians first. Give it to me." The Emperor's voice was hoarse as he reached toward the Grand Preceptor. With the Emperor speaking, Consort Chun could not obstruct him. She could only order the attendants to withdraw. The chief eunuch swiftly stepped forward, took the jade vial, and carefully poured out a pill. The pill slid into the Emperor's mouth, taking effect almost instantly. Within mere moments, the Emperor's complexion improved, regaining its color. His right hand clenched into a fist as his chest heaved violently. "Search. Find out who did this." Under the night sky, the palace was enveloped in a palpable tension and agitation. Imperial guards mobilized, searching each palace chamber systematically. Ultimately, a wooden box was discovered in Consort Chun's quarters. When the lock was pried open, inside lay a voodoo doll inscribed with the Emperor's birth date and hour. Soon, the wooden box was brought before the Emperor. Consort Chun knelt on the ground, clutching the Emperor's legs, sobbing and crying out, "It's a frame-up! Someone must have framed me. What possible gain could I have from harming the Emperor?" Consort Chun. "Yes. It must be Consort Chun who framed me." Consort Chun pointed at me, her eyes blazing with fury. "Why haven't you arrested the real culprit?" She continued her impassioned pleas. The Emperor glanced at me with a deep, penetrating gaze but remained silent. I knew I was under suspicion too. I knelt, my expression composed. "Your Majesty, Consort Chun and I have always been at odds. How could I possibly have entered her quarters to place such a large box there? Only the personal maidservants attending Consort Chun have access to the inner chambers. Your Majesty need only investigate to verify this." The investigation lasted half the night, and the past deeds of several maidservants close to Consort Chun were thoroughly exposed. The more they uncovered, the more Consort Chun's complexion darkened. Soon, the truth about the so-called heaven-mandated Phoenix Maiden from years past was laid bare. It turned out there was no heavenly Phoenix Maiden at all. It was all a charade orchestrated by pure Consort herself. After reincarnating, she kept the princess but feared I would suppress her, causing her to lose imperial favor. Then she recalled the lifelike phoenix jade she had obtained earlier. She ordered rumors spread that the princess was born clutching phoenix jade, proclaiming her the heavenly Phoenix Maiden. The Emperor trembled with rage, kicking pure Consort squarely in the chest. "I knew you harbored evil intentions. You'd gladly see me dead to make way for your heaven-mandated Phoenix Maiden." His eyes blazed with fury, consumed by a desire to tear her limb from limb. Ignoring the pain in her chest, Consort Chun struggled to crawl forward again. "Your Majesty, please understand. I did all this only to win your favor. I truly never intended to usurp the throne." She shook her head desperately, pleading, "The witchcraft dolls were not my doing. How could I be so foolish as to hide such things in my own chambers?" The Emperor snorted coldly, but before he could speak, Xiao Qingfeng arrived. Seeing Xiao Qingfeng, pure consort felt as if she had found her anchor. Feng'er, come. Tell your father, have you ever seen this box in your mother's chambers? Xiao Qingfeng glanced at pure consort, then looked hesitantly at the emperor. The emperor's face hardened as he demanded, speak truthfully. Xiao Qingfeng abruptly knelt and whispered, Father, I have indeed seen this box in my mother's palace. But when I saw it, the box was locked. Its contents, Your Majesty, I know absolutely nothing about. This answer exploded like a heavy bomb. All eyes instantly converged on Consort Chun. In an instant, the hall was filled with a tense and oppressive atmosphere. The emperor slammed his fist on the table and roared furiously. Consort Chun, what more can you possibly argue? Guards, take Consort Chun away. Since she refuses to confess, hand her over to the Supreme Court of Justice for handling. Consort Chun's lips trembled as if she'd heard something utterly unbelievable. Her body seemed to lose all strength, her knees buckled, and she collapsed to her knees. Handed over to the Ministry of Justice? The tortures alone would be enough to break her. Admitting guilt or not made no difference now. She collapsed, resigned to her fate. This servant confesses. After this, pure consort was stripped of her title and imprisoned in the heavenly dungeon. Xiao Qingfeng's fate became the greatest concern. I tactfully suggested to the emperor that she be placed under my jurisdiction. The witchcraft doll was a transaction between Xiao Qingfeng and me. Xiao Qingfeng must remain under my watchful eye. In a few years, I'll select a woman with a strict mistress from among my trusted subordinates and marry her off to confine Xiao Qingfeng within the inner quarters. Then no one will ever know the truth. This was the life Xiao Qingfeng had desired in her previous existence. A quiet, unremarkable existence spent dutifully serving her husband and raising children. Though the emperor was rescued in time this time, his imperial body suffered considerable damage. His aging was visibly accelerated. He grew increasingly obsessed with the path of immortality, pursuing eternal life. Ministers, led by the Grand Secretariat, submitted petitions urging His Majesty to expand the harem and secure an heir. The mountain of memorials provoked a fierce outburst of anger from the emperor. Finally, His Majesty issued an edict. Consort Chun was elevated to empress, and Xiao Qingyu was named crown prince. The day after I became empress, Consort Chun demanded to see the crown prince from her prison cell. She claimed Xiao Qingyu was her son and that she was the rightful empress. I led Xiao Qingfeng to the dungeon to see her. Torture had disfigured her beyond recognition. Her hair was matted like straw, her face as pale as death. Seeing us enter, she frantically smoothed her hair and wiped dust from her face. My son has come to see his mother. I watched her coldly, nudging Xiao Qingfeng closer to pure consort. The moment she saw the clothes on Xiao Qingfeng, pure consort screamed like a madwoman. It's not you. My son is not you. You're a lowly girl. I gave birth to a prince. A prince! Xiao Qingfeng hastily retreated 2 steps, covering her nose in disgust. Stinking to high heaven, she truly remained as cold-hearted and ruthless as in my past life. My amusement vanished abruptly. I ordered her to be taken back. After Xiao Qingfeng departed, I stepped before pure consort. Reborn into this life, you still err spectacularly. What does it matter to sit upon the imperial throne? Who remembers this empress's name? The world knows me as Consort Chun, as empress. But who knows my surname? Who knows my name? Consort Chun. We've battled across 2 lifetimes. Do you know your enemy's name? Consort Chun's hand, clutching her skirt hem, froze. As if suddenly understanding, she snapped her gaze toward me. I stood tall, looking down at her from above. Chi Chan. Remember this name. Within 3 short years, His Majesty fell ill, confined to his bedchamber. Our court shifted to the crown prince overseeing state affairs, with the empress ruling from behind a curtain. Xiao Qingyu is 8 now. Though occasionally slow to respond, he holds the highest rank, and none dare notice his peculiarity. This lifetime, he shows me unusual closeness. Seeing my busyness, he learns to handle minor court matters to ease my burden. I once asked him if he wished to rule personally. He waved his hand lightly, as if dismissing something trivial. Mother, do not trouble your son. A ruler must avoid mediocrity and incompetence. All I am today is thanks to your grace. Besides, I've grown accustomed to a life of leisure. I'm simply not cut out for such toil. After uttering these flippant words, his smile abruptly vanished. If only we could achieve national prosperity and people's peace, he murmured, his eyes blazing with intensity. Who truly holds power then matters little. I let out a soft chuckle. This time, my joy stemmed not from Xiao Qingyu's royal status. I rejoiced in his profound insight. With a son like this, I have no regrets or grievances in this life. Xiao Qingfeng hadn't even reached the age of coming of age when she was betrothed. She wanted to marry early. Father was gravely ill, bedridden for so many years, who knew when he might pass away. Then she'd have to observe 3 years of mourning. I didn't listen further and agreed immediately. Yet after her wedding, she clamored to see me. She claimed to be the founding princess. She said she was wrong, that she wanted to study martial arts. She no longer loved that envoy from the enemy nation. I knew she had been reborn. I did not go to see her. Later, she suddenly stopped her tantrums. She began vying for favor, clinging to life through her husband's grace. Trapped within the inner courtyards, she bore child after child. Epilogue. In the 3rd year of Empress Qi's regency, the first female official system was established. Countless scholars raised banners in protest, demanding the empress revoke the decree. That same year, the young princess stepped out of the palace gates first. Inheriting the Li family's fortune, the wealthiest in the land, she became the first woman to engage in commerce. This move sparked endless controversy, yet it inspired many women to step beyond their courtyard gates and embark on their own commercial journeys. After commerce was promoted, novel items began appearing among the common folk. Soap that washed away grime while leaving a lingering fragrance. Glass that sealed windows while letting sunlight into homes. The imperial astrologer divined through the stars, prophesying that this was a woman from another world. A being from another realm could bring peace to the land. Thus, our dynasty gained its first female official. Women's status rose dramatically, and Qi Ho's name spread far and wide among the people. Later historical records noted that during Qi Chan's reign, the nation enjoyed peace and prosperity, and the people held her in deep affection. She stands as the first female emperor. The end.